Hey guys, thanks for tuning in again to the Detour Live podcast. We don't have a lot of time tonight. It's going to be short and sharp. We're going to wrap all things Santos Festival of Cycling because John has a function to go to. And as you know on this show, the fans come second to Iffy's priorities, of course, joined by four-time National Road Champion John Trevorrow, Olympic gold medalist and commentator Scott McGrory. Start with you, John. Mate, what was your takeaways from today? Big day? Big wrap?
Yeah, big day. A big day. It was windy. I thought there might have been a bit of carnage out there, but the break went early and they let them go too far. And as far as for the stage win, we all wanted to see Richie see if he could take that final
you said it was
win.
A sure thing. You couldn't have been more confident. Wrong again.
They didn't look. Well, occasionally it happens. Occasionally, but look, a really good day. But it was actually a very good finale, both for the stage and for the GC. Some good little bits happening back in the main bunch. Some very strong riders back there. So exciting stuff.
When these superfans come in red hot, hi Dan in capitals because she missed me last night. John Scott, how good is Jimmy Whelan and Bridge Lane? What do you reckon, Scooter?
Yeah, great performance. And so when we did the wrap up of the broadcast today, we had our highlights, and Robbie had Blake Quick, as a sprinter, his highlight for the competition. Gracie Elvin put in Richie Porte, and obviously, his retirement last time up Willunga Hill for him today. And I put in Jimmy Whelan, and it wasn't just because of the win; it was just the fact that he'd been booted out of the EF education team last year, out of the World Tour, and then he's just bounced back. He didn't sort of go and sulk in the shadows. He's really got himself fit, and he wants to get himself back into the World Tour. So stage one, a dominant performance. A minute and a half up the road at the end of the stage. He had that 1 minute docked from him for motor pacing at the start of the stage, right or wrong. Most of us think it was wrong. Regardless, he came into the last stage with a much narrower time gap than what he was hoping for after that first stage, and still came away with the win. So got to give it to him. He's a softly spoken guy, and put in a fantastic performance, and we all hope that he could get himself back into the World Tour. And it was backed up, as Wendy said, it was backed up by Bridge Lane's depth. They really did put in a great performance, first and second in the Tour overall, because Matt Dinham was kind of in the shadow a little bit of James Whelan's performance. So Matt Dinham, mate, he's a bloody serious bike rider, 21 years of age, former mountain biker, and he's really on his way, a great climber.
Impressive, exactly.
Yeah. We were talking about the highlights of the day. I've been back pirating videos from the Santos Tour down under Twitter feed, and I've got the highlights of today with the interview with James Whelan at the finish.
Go back and have a look at the highlights throughout the day. The Be Safe, Be Seen Stage 3 highlights. They started down in McLaren Vale, this iconic stage which has become so famous in world cycling over the last 20 years. And as the gun fired, they rolled out of McLaren Vale. Luke Plapp, he wanted to try and win this stage after following Richie Porte across the line at the top last year. There was some early action and an early crash, unfortunately, for a couple of riders, but they would be able to get up and get the wheel changed in the front and continue, rejoin the bunch. But in the meantime, Callum Scottson was on the move and he forced a break. He was joined out there by Declan Trezise and Angus Lyons from ARA Pro Racing, also two riders from the Oliver's Real Food Racing team in Daniel Luke and Edwin Britz. And that group, they moved away, the peloton content. Bridge Lane said no one a danger, 4:29 the closest rider on GC. We can let this one roll.
Griffin Knight was also a young rider for Cycle House that made it out there. He was the first rider to get dropped from the peloton later on. And we saw four riders go out of the peloton to try and bridge their way across. That eventually happened, and then it was 9 riders out in front. These are the 4 chasers that made their way across, including Brendan Green, who tactically, throughout the stage, rode a brilliant race to get the best he could from a performance like this.
He did, and as they made contact, as they were about to go down Main Road from McLaren Vale towards Willunga, the 5 became 9, and they became a very handy working group. And the first time through Willunga, there was a Shimano King of the Mountain point, and it was Cooper Sayers who led the group up the foothill of the Willunga climb, turned right, took maximum points on offer, 3 points in the Shimano King of the Mountain competition. Unchallenged as they race their way down towards Aldinga Beach, the beautiful white sands, the blue waters of the Gulf of St. Vincent, as they race their way along to the first Zip Track intermediate sprint of the day at Snapper Point. As they lined up, it was not to be a sprint. It was Brendan Green who took himself to the front. A little acceleration, unchallenged over the line. So he said, I'm going to get something out of being in the break all day. I'm going to take the points.
Picked up the points, but didn't upset the harmony in the breakaway group. That was crucial for the rest of the stage.
And back in the peloton, Team Bridgelane were content to even let the gap get out to a point where we had a new virtual race leader on the road, and that was Declan Trezise, number 55 from ARA Pro Racing. Second time through the Shimano KOM was that man again, Cooper Sayers, taking maximum points. The others just following across, content to just keep the rhythm, keep trying and build the lead, which was out to 4:45 at one point. The next time through at Snapper Point, Brendan Green, he'd be taking a bit of a break at the back of the group, but conveniently started rolling through as it came towards the sprint and made sure he was on the front when they went through. Maximum points again for him. The peloton, they were starting to get a little more agitated because the lead was out over 4.5 minutes. And in the break, the pace went up. The riders from ARA started pushing things and they started going overboard. Then Willunga Hill and the group exploded.
No harmony left in the breakaway group at this point. Callum Scottson looked strong and Angus Lyons looked even stronger. Brendan Green was surprisingly strong. We expected him to struggle on the climb. He was okay. Angus Lyons, though, acceleration out of the saddle. He could sniff the victory. He knew that the peloton was not going to catch him and victory was just around the corner.
Angus Lyons went and Callum Scottson, he tried to crawl his way across that gap, but the climbing prowess of Lyons was just too much. He came up through the Shimano KOM and crowned himself this year's King of Willunga Hill. And as he came to the last corner, one last quick check over the shoulder and a lion-hearted ride by Angus Lyons would take victory in front of a huge crowd on Willunga Hill. Iconic place in Australian cycling. And Angus Lyons and his ARA team take the spoils.
A well-deserved stage victory for the team and the team effort that was put in by he and his teammate Declan Trezise, and a solo performance at the very end to make sure he beat the rest of the breakaway.
James Whelan, well, you went in today's stage and you're quite confident, but as we predicted, the wind's out there, a break got away. Your team did a brilliant job to get you to the base of the climb today and protect that lead, didn't they?
Yeah, the team was unreal today. We were on the front all day, taking care of the attacks in the crosswinds, and yeah, the boys were incredible. Every time we got attacked in the crosswinds, we'd just reset, go straight back to the front, ride tempo, and then I just had to do my job up the climb. Matt Dinham set the tempo for me and made sure that the guys that we had dropped behind didn't get back to me. And it's pretty simple after that. It was just hold the wheel and win the thing, and that's what we did.
Yeah, well, we certainly we didn't see a lot on the climb, what's happening behind because of the leaders. But it seemed comfortable there, and then towards the end, all you had to do was make sure that you followed those wheels. And as I said, Matt Dinham, he was totally unselfish, wasn't he? He's running third overall, and he just made sure he protected you right to the final end.
Yeah, I mean, on that climb, I think he showed he was the strongest. He's an absolute talent. He's a young guy. And, for him just to ride the front like that when he's also high on GC, credit to him, and I'm really grateful for that.
And finally, what's it feel like for you? The Santos Festival of Cycling, you've had an injury-plagued year last year. You've been in great form for the last 2 weeks, but how's it feel now to cross the line and know you're the winner of the 2022 Santos Festival of Cycling?
Oh, it's pretty unreal. In October, when I found out my contract wasn't getting renewed, I thought, okay, I'll just win Nationals and I'll win the TDU. That was some lofty goals, and I didn't win Nationals, but I've won this one. So, yeah, it's pretty surreal. It hasn't quite kicked in. I've got to enjoy it with the team now and, have a beer.
Yeah, well, enjoy the win. Congratulations, and enjoy your celebration tonight.
Cheers. Thanks.
All right, that was the highlights of obviously stage 3. And the best thing about being on the ground, Iffy, is you can line up some special guests, and you've actually delivered. You've got the National Road Champion from Australia, Luke Plapp. He's becoming a regular now in the Detour. Thanks for joining us again, Plappy. And how are you feeling now that's all done and dusted?
Good to be here, gentlemen. Look, it wasn't too bad a tour this year. We had a pretty young team, but I think like we just saw with Jimmy winning, pretty special to see him win, to be honest, mate. I think everyone in Australia was pretty stoked to see him get up and prove a big point on the world stage. I guess everyone's probably watching over in Europe. It's all that's going on at the moment, so it was awesome to see him get up.
Now, you two are obviously good mates because, as he said, he had this intention of winning the national title and this, but you took the national title away from him. It was a great race. He rode brilliantly. You caught him just near the top of the last hill, and you actually apologised to him after the line, which I thought was very nice.
Yeah, look, Jimmy, 2018 now, when I was over in Europe for Junior Worlds, he took me in. He gave me a roof over my head and a house to stay in Girona. Set me up with my manager I've got now, actually. So he's done a lot for me, and he helped me, I guess, get started all those years ago. So it was a shame not to see him in the World Tour this year, but I think he's made a pretty big statement to get himself back in there shortly, hopefully.
Scooter.
Hey, mate. So, considering what happened yesterday and you lost time because of a flat tyre, which took you out of the overall classification, but the way it played out today behind Angus Lyons from the breakaway winning the stage, you were the best of the rest. So is there a little bit of bittersweet that you did prove today that you were super strong on the climb, but you weren't able to do it for either a stage win or the overall classification?
Yeah, for sure. Yesterday was pretty disappointing. And I think today was sort of go out there and see what I can do and I guess see what could have been. But no, I did feel really good on the climb. It was a shame we couldn't bring it back for a proper climb and see what we can get for Richie. It would have been awesome to see him do or get the win in his last climb ever. But yeah, I did feel pretty good up there today. The headwind did make it quite interesting. I think whoever was on the front was suffering pretty early. It was a lot stronger than I anticipated. So you got quite a good sit on the wheel, I must say. And I think we even saw watching those highlights with Angus. Once he got a gap, it's pretty much all over. It was every man for themselves. But no, that's all right. Credit to Angus and credit to the boys. Just would have been nice to get Richie that win one last time.
Well, I think it was a fault of Stewie O'Grady by not having 2 laps of Willunga. I mean, that's the tradition. You have that first lap to sort of sort your shit out, and then you light it up, and it all comes together for the finale. So I blame Stewie for that. I'm sorry. Iffy. Always got to do 2 laps.
Oh, no, well, they didn't do 2 laps last year either, mate. So now there's
didn't they?
Not well. No. So just get your facts right.
I make up facts. It doesn't matter. I would have 2 laps.
I was just going to say, Luke, it's been a testing few days for you because you had a big chase on day one to bridge the gap, and then all the dramas that happened yesterday. But your form is obviously great.
Well, I'll just go cut you off quickly, John. I thought you were going to add in the fact that you were trying to stir the pot on the show yesterday, but you don't want to talk about that, do you?
Well, no, I've already told Luke.
You were stirring the pot. Now Luke's here. Talk to his face. He's trying to drum up some bloody drama.
He spoke directly to my face this morning at Coles.
Good.
So we got through that.
Yeah.
All right.
The fans want to hear the direct to the face stuff.
No. But the only reason I'm giving Luke a little bit of a clip is because he let me down the Bakerits and didn't turn up. So he's got a cop it.
Very fair.
Trying to divert it again. Anyway, what was your question, John?
Well, I was getting to it before you interrupted.
Sorry.
I was going to say, so now I know that you're staying on. You're doing a training block up in the mountains, up in the beautiful high country of Victoria for another a week or so before you head off. And so, what's your first race when you get overseas?
Yeah, so I fly from Australia to UAE tour, which is pretty good, big first race. Could be met with some crosswinds, hills, and a TT, which would be quite nice. We're got a pretty stacked team heading over there to, I guess, try to take it up to UAE at their home race. But no, I'm really looking forward to getting started over there, to be honest. It's, I guess, dreamt of being over there and kicking off the season for a few months now and training quite hard for it. And yeah, like you said, get over to Bright to put some final preparations on the form. The legs do feel quite good, and I think the Aussie summer just tunes them up quite nicely. But yeah, really looking forward to kicking off the season over there. And yeah, basically the whole calendar for me is 1 week stage races with some TTs thrown in there, which is quite nice and something that I think will work well to just roll into the season with.
Now, also, I was just going to say, sorry, mate, just going with that. With Ineos, of course, we spoke last night about the terrible news about Bernal and the other young guy who is ended up in hospital. But have you heard anything from the team on how he is?
Yeah, I think pretty much just what from you guys I heard on social media. Look, it's not great, but at the same time, it could have been a lot worse. I think Egan put out a little statement today saying it was a 95% chance that he could have been paralysed, but he's come through it and he's a fighter. So, look, I think first and foremost, it's just getting his health right before we think about the bike. But it looks like he's slowly or quickly coming good, actually. Could have been a lot worse. So, yeah, hopefully he gets through it. But, yeah, I think it just sort of shows us what can happen on a TT bike and doing efforts and the positions we're getting in at the moment and the speeds that we're going so quick. It's pretty dangerous and can end the season or can end your life if you're not careful.
Scooter?
Yeah, terrible situation, wasn't it? So what are your expectations? 21 years of age, going into your first season as a World Tour rider, but we saw you at the Road Nats. We saw how good you were today. You know, you're obviously a seriously good cyclist, but what are your expectations going into a team like Ineos that has so many big hitters? What's the conversations you've been having with management on what they think you should do or what you should target, and what are you personally trying to go for?
I think the program I've got this year sort of is a real good way to learn and learn the ranks of just the roads up there, but how Europe works. I honestly haven't had any experience over there, so I'm pretty keen just to smash as many race days as I can, really. Meet the guys, learn from the guys, and just see where I sit. And that'll pretty much be my whole year, just learning from the guys and learning the roads. And then I'll have a few TTs in there with either at tours that I can target or with the national team, and that'll be my main focuses. I'll have commies and worlds in there that I'll really target and have a pretty good prep for. But yeah, in team colours, it's mainly just learning the ropes, learn from the boys, and see what I can do to add to the team. And yeah, I guess I've got my cracks in the TTs with the national team.
Well, today, Tadej Pogacar, he learned pretty quick and went straight in to win the Tour de France. So, you know, how has it given you? I think that, look, the world of cycling has changed in the last couple of years with these young guys, and even Egan Bernal when he first came in as well as a young rider winning the Tour de France, and now with Tadej, it's completely changed. So, do you feel that you could make a mark straight away, or do you feel that you like old school need to learn a little bit more?
Well, like you said, I think by the time I get to July when the tour rolls around, Tadej already had two of them by my age. But no, I think for me, coming from Oz, I really just need to take my time and learn. I think it's a bit different if you grow up in Europe on the roads and the races there with the palos on the roads. So yeah, I think it'll take a few years at least. Might be a few years till I do a Grandy as well. So I guess, yeah, really do take it slow. And at the same time, I still do want to mix a bit of track in there on the Madisons and potentially still in the Team's Pursuit. So, yeah, take it and just evolve as it goes. But, yeah, I do still want to fight for that Olympic glory on the track.
Got a couple of live comments, John. On your Jimmy, Samantha says, and Caroline, all about Jimmy. But this is a good point. David says, can Jimmy Willunga get onto a World Tour team this year? If not, should JK Bike Exchange be talking to him now? This is a common thread when we see performances in early season and there's teams are full. Should teams, Iffy, I mean, you know Jerry Ryan, should they almost leave one spot open for like the dominant performance of the summer? Because look at Simon Clark, didn't have a contract, goes over to Mallorca, runs fifth, runs third. They can still perform. And a lot of the guys are putting in the effort. And look at Jimmy Whelan. You know, you lose your contract, get a shake-up, put in a good off-season, and you're ready to go. Yeah,
look, the team is full. That's the issue. I mean, I pushed pretty hard for Simon Clark. I just thought it would be a wonderful story for him to come back to the team. He spent, you know, he was at from the beginning of Green Edge. It would have been a wonderful story. And hey, how good was he? He ran third last night. Brilliant ride, top class. So I just don't think there's a spot there. But your first question, should Jimmy Whelan be back in the World Tour? Well, he should never have been given the flick by EF because he had some injuries and some problems. I don't know why they did that. Hopefully he can get back because he's definitely good enough to be racing World Tour.
And EF have a history of that, Dan, as well. So I'm not going to sugarcoat this at all. But Jonathan Vaughters, who talks the talk about having, you know, a holistic approach to cycling, has been one of the worst at doing late calls for riders that he's not going to re-sign, and basically throws them under the bus too late in the season to be able to find another contract. So, that's something that he's never been held accountable for. So, yeah, Jimmy should be back in the World Tour, and it's EF that stuffed him around.
Do you feel that, Plappy, a sense of frustration in the peloton, the guys that particularly have had big results over the last couple of weeks that are sitting there going, shit, I know I'm good enough for the World Tour, but there's just no spots?
Yeah, I think that's, I guess, from what I learnt last year, there's so much potential coming through, and I guess they're getting guys almost out of under 17s now, which it used to be out of under 23s you did it, but now it's out of under 17s. So, yeah, like you said, I think almost every team in the World Tour is full. So, yeah, it is pretty tough for everyone, but I'm sure he will be back there in a second.
Yep.
Now, I was just going to mention your, well, I don't know whether he's your future brother-in-law or not, but he's pretty close to the Plapp family, Blake Quick, who, wonderful stage win the other day. Now, we're talking about young riders who, will go World Tour. He's going to go World Tour. And I think he'll go World Tour this year. I know I've heard rumours that already a couple of teams are talking to him. But how is he? Because he had a little touchdown earlier today, and he rode virtually the whole stage with one arm. I saw him after the finish, and he was sort of holding the shoulder. And it's a shoulder he hurt not that long ago. And he said, I might have to get some x-rays. Have you heard how he is, Luke?
Yeah, well, like you said, mate, he's taking the piss this year. So hopefully he does sign a contract and get over there. He's dominating. But, yeah, he replied to my text message 5 minutes ago. He says he's pretty bruised and sore, but he thinks it won't be broken. Still waiting to find out. But fingers crossed it's all right, and he can, I guess, continue with the form he's got and hopefully get over to Europe quickly and win some races. He heads off before me, actually, so he'll be over there on team camp and ready to race with Trinity. So, yeah, hopefully he can get a big win in Europe and solidify that spot and hopefully get a big, fat contract.
All right, Plappy, you've got to head off, mate, so we really appreciate you joining the detour again. Good luck for the rest of the year. Scooter, one before you go.
Before you go, how about your girlfriend, Georgia Baker? She heads off soon as well, so she's got a big season ahead of her.
She does. She's focusing on the classics early on, and I think she showed what she could do the other day just after COVID and win the crit and play a big team role. So I'm pretty excited to see what she's capable of. I think Mitchelton team, the Bike Exchange team now, probably going to fly. They've got some horsepower in that lead-out train, and I think if you get Georgie or Ruby to the finish line, they're going to be very, very hard to beat worldwide in the biggest races of the world.
Last question. How are you and Rowan going? All good?
Very, very well. Very well.
Good on you, John. All right, Plappy. We might not see you for a while now, and he's gone.
Yeah,
well done, Iffy. Well done. He couldn't get off quickie. All right, quick drinks break. John, you can recover and just have a long, hard think about it.
Look at this bike. You think it's just a bike, right? But it's not. It's a bike. 374 people are looking at. This guy, this girl, them, all looking at it. People from here, there, and wherever this is. People that are looking for a bike. Or just a piece of it. Amateurs, semi-amateurs, and pro-amateurs. This guy wants this bike, but with this crank and these bars. This could be the perfect match. But not this one. This girl has a bike to sell, and thousands of people might purchase it. Eyes on Bikes help grow small businesses. His, hers, yours, and the latest data and insights help those businesses keep moving. We are the world's #1 bike marketplace, with over 500,000 products and 900 brands, where buyers and sellers are brought together in a place where a bike is never just a bike. Bike Exchange, where the world buys, sells, learns, and rides.
Life is like a two-way street. It's about consideration and mutual respect. Roads are much the same. However you get around, walk, ride or drive, if we share our roads, we can all be safer. The Amy Gillett Foundation is Australia's peak cycling safety charity. Our mission is for safe cycling in Australia. Our vision is for zero cyclist deaths. Over the last year, we've seen an enormous increase in people taking up cycling, whether it be for recreation, with the family, commuting, or even to start your own cycling career. We need to do more to make it safer for every cyclist. 20 cyclists every day are hospitalised, and one cyclist is killed every 10 days on Australian roads. So, the next time you jump on your bike or hop in your car, remember to practice the 4 C's. Be courteous, calm, considerate and conscientious. Every cyclist death is preventable and we all deserve to get home safely. Please donate to help the Amy Gillett Foundation make the roads safer for you and for me.
Thanks again to Bike Exchange and the Amy Gillett Foundation. Now, obviously, we talked up Richie Porte. It was his final time up Willunga Hill, and here is his final words to the crowd up on the podium there with Dave McKenzie.
It's not often fairy tales end perfectly, and it didn't today, but that doesn't matter, does it really? It's for you, I think. It's just nice to be here. We're grateful to have you back racing in Australia. We know this is quite possibly the last time you will race your bike in Australia. What were the emotions like for you?
I mean, I'm not the most emotional fella going around. My wife calls me a bit of a tin man, but this morning, it did kind of crack me a little bit. It's been, my life coming here to Adelaide the last 14 years, and it's where it all started. So it's been brilliant. The crowds are fantastic as always, and it was actually nice to ride up the climb and be able to just enjoy it for once without, having to rip myself apart.
Well, you still rode pretty damn hard. What's it been like over the years racing up Willunga? And we see the crowd out here, but what's it been like for you? Just the joy you've got racing in front of home fans, home crowds, and winning at top Willunga.
I mean, to be honest, racing up here with the crowds that, that pre-COVID we used to have, it was as big a crowd as anywhere that you got in Europe. The tour sometimes doesn't get crowds like we have up here, and Aussie supporters are fantastic. They don't run beside you and get in the way. It's no, I mean, it's just been an absolute pleasure. I've loved climbing this hill, and it's been very kind to me, and so have the people of South Australia, and and everybody that comes from elsewhere around the country to support us. Has been brilliant.
Yeah, great stuff there from Richie Porte. And, big chapeau. Like, we take the piss a lot on this show, but I think that with COVID restrictions, it has made a huge difference to have the World Tour riders to come out here, make the effort. You often hear stories of superstars that go, no, I'm just not going to do the trip. I'm not going to do the 2 weeks or whatever. He did it, and you can tell that he did it for the fans. And I think he should be commended for that. It's been a fantastic career, fantastic story at the Tour Down Under, and absolute legend, Scooter.
Yeah, absolutely. There was also the post-race interview that we did in the broadcast as well, and he spoke a lot about the young riders in his team, the young riders in the race that are coming through, the next generation. Perhaps he actually even said, he thinks that the next Cadell Evans might be in the race, today. I think we know what it could also be just the next Richie Porte as well. So, it really has been fantastic for the sport in Australia, and very humble to hear him, say those words both in the television broadcast and then on the stage after the finish today. So, great to see. Really appreciate the way he has performed over the years. And look, you're right. Look, Stuart O'Grady has the connection and the reach as the race director to these guys, to riders like Richie. He has the respect from them. So when he calls and said, guys, look, we've gone back to National Road Series level. It's not World Tour anymore. It's global pandemic. We need to make the race happen. Can you still please come? Then they listen to him and they respect that. And, I think that mutual respect is what's enabled riders like Rowan Dennis and Chris Harper and Richie Porte to turn up and be on the start line, Luke Durbridge, and of course the Bike Exchange Jayco guys as well. So that really adds value to the event. And I think the mutual respect between them and Stewie really has done wonders.
Now, if you're about to head off to a function, mate, what do you want to say to wrap things up?
Look, it just congratulations to the whole organisation of the Santos Festival of Cycling to put this on. Stewie, I feel for Stewie, so chapeau, mate. I did call in and have a quiet ale with him, across the fence and all of that sort of stuff today. But, hard to believe he's done all this work and then as well as anything, it could be at the race. But a fantastic effort. I really enjoyed watching some of the young guys. I mean, lucky I was close with the Bike Exchange Jayco team, so I saw young Cam Rogers and Hamish McKenzie up close. And they're good young kids, you know. And talking about that, there's the boss ringing me.
Oh, you better go, mate. You got priorities, and Detour fits underneath Jerry Ryan.
I just hung up on him, so
okay.
That's a first. There's a first.
You know what I can do, Scooter? Iffy, you can go. I'll just dump you from the broadcast. All the best.
Mate. I don't trust you two talking about me when I'm gone.
All right.
See you, buddy.
You don't have a choice. John's gone. How good's this? How good's this? He's got no control over the buttons. But yeah, I mean,
you know what it's like, Dan, right? So for all of you at home, if and the boss is Jerry Ryan, fantastic guy, and without him, where would we be in Australian cycling? But if Jerry calls John, he dumps everything and anyone to take that call. I think that was the first time he's ever denied a call from Jerry Ryan.
Yeah, and he got the automatic guilt because as soon as I dumped him, I can still look at him in the background and he's straight on the phone, straight.
Yeah, trying to text. Yeah.
Trying to text back. Mate, I was on the podcast. I said I was going to be gone by 7 and I'm on my way. So sorry. Anyway, any other news, Scooter?
Where we were.
Yeah, what were we talking about? There's no time.
Talking about Richie being here and respecting the event. And that's look, and also, respect to not just Stewie, of course, he's been in for these last 2 years, but also Mike Turner for getting the event up and going in the first place. So that is the legacy that Stewie has now taken over. And as tough as it has been for Stuart O'Grady this year, and even last year because of the pandemic and basically being thrown under the bus, he takes over race director position and then the pandemic hit. So it's been really challenging for him and the SA Events team. And then this year to not be able to be on the race because of being a close contact with COVID, obviously it's really challenging. However, in the coming years, he has learnt so much in these 2 seasons from all of the stuff ups, the pandemic, even not being on the race, to be able to sit back and watch the broadcast. That's something you don't get to do as a race director. So he has learnt so much in these 2 editions that it's 5-6 editions worth of information that he'll be able to take forward. So right now he's probably still hurting about not being on the race itself, but this has been a great education for him, and the race and the event will just go onwards and upwards with him leading it.
Well, yeah, it can only get better. That's guaranteed because the bar is so bloody low. And this week, when the COVID stuff hit with his daughter, he just would have thrown his hands in the air. It's like, I just can't win.
Hey, look, we had that in the commentary. That was the thing. I get the phone call a couple of nights ago, 9 o'clock, and at Edmondson at 9:30. We're trying to work it out. Who could replace Anna Mears? Well, no one, of course, no one can replace Anna. But who is around? Well, okay, recently retired professional Olympian Anna, and at Edmondson. So she comes in. And we had to do 2 stages. Everybody's basically just running with it as you can in these situations. So hopefully the broadcast was to standards that people are expecting in these last couple of stages.
We're talking with obviously Luke Plapp earlier, who's on Ineos Grenadiers, and we're talking about Egan Bernal's crash. It raises a topic. I think there was some mention on it on Cycling News about the landscape has changed with cycling in so many facets. Bikes are quicker, the way they prepare and all that sort of stuff. Do you think there's going to be sweeping changes with how riders train? Like if you're doing TT efforts and so forth, safety is paramount. So if you're going to do that, you might have to, particularly if you're Ineos and you think of the amount of money we're dealing with likes of Bernal, rent a race track, for 4 hours and do efforts there, or like a closed safety environment, because gone are the days where you can just be a bit blasé with this stuff and take those sort of risks.
Oh, look, we also have to look at where those accidents happened as well. We're in Colombia. It's a challenging environment to be out on the roads in Colombia itself. So, maybe if they were based in Europe, you wouldn't have those sorts of issues. It's just quite bizarre that 2 riders from the same team within a couple of days had, such similar accidents, and with buses, parked buses, mind you. So it's not as if there was a traffic problem. This is, this was the riders themselves just going too fast on open roads. You have to pick your moments. You have to understand where you are and where you're training. I don't think it's feasible what you're saying does make sense, but I just can't see how feasible it would be to then, go out and rent motor circuits or whatever it may be. Maybe it's just a little bit more on the home trainer and try and be in bunches and groups, and maybe it's having, vehicles in front and behind when you're doing these sorts of training rides in environments like that. I don't think that accident would have happened if they were in another part of the world. Look, Michele Scarponi also, you only have to go back a couple of years, top three in the Giro d'Italia, and he got taken out by a truck and unfortunately passed away from that traffic accident. It is a global issue, but in Ineos's case, both riders are in Colombia, which we've heard from so many people that is a really challenging environment to be in. It's a small country, heavily populated, and traffic regulations and understanding of road rules just seem to not exist there.
Now, the Wheel Wizard, he's taken note that you're going to be commentating on the Beijing Winter Olympics. He's given you some info. For your information, Scott, for Beijing, Netherlands qualified 18 skaters, Belgium 3. 8 of the 18 raced for Jumbo-Visma, including Antoinette de Jong, the Eleanor Van Dyke of skaters.
Yes.
And Dai Intab, or Day or Die. Good luck with his name. 3 times 500-meter world champ and record holder.
I'll be an expert on that within the next couple of days. Yes, Antoinette is certainly right up there. And I think the Netherlands won might have been the men's competition, 7 out of 10 last time or something like that. It is incredibly dominant, the Dutch team at the speed skating at the Winter Olympics. So I've already watched the Olympic trials for the Netherlands, and that was really about making sure I understand the pronunciations of their names. And I also have an old friend from the 6-day scene that I was sending messages to even during the Summer Olympics just to get the correct pronunciation of the Dutch riders. And I'll be doing that next week as well to make sure I pronounce the Dutch winners correctly. So doing as much respect as I can for the Dutch skaters.
He's followed up again, the Wheel Wizard. You should watch on YouTube the new Jumbo-Visma service course shared by the men's and women's cycling and skating team. That's that's genius. Like crossing skating and cycling, because they're not exactly the same, but very similar muscles, yeah?
Yeah, it is. And it's really interesting in these 2 particular disciplines. All of the skaters use cycling for training in the summer and even during the winter as well. And they'll use the bike for warm-up on the home trainer before they actually go into competition on the ice itself. And the most famous crossover was Eric Heiden, who won 5 gold medals at the Winter Olympics at Lake Placid, and then crossed over to cycling and went on to ride the Tour de France. He was also studying medicine throughout that entire period. So when he finished cycling, went on to be a doctor. So we're talking about a 5-time Olympic gold medalist in skating, a Tour de France rider in cycling, and then went on to a doctor. High achiever much? Well, that was Eric Heiden.
I was going to say, what does he do for fun?
Yeah, travel to the moon just for a bit of fun on the weekend. Yeah, certainly a high achiever. So, and he's not the only one. So there's lots of crossover between cycling and skating. Yeah.
Last comment, Samantha wants to know, do the World Tour teams watch our local talent every year for contracts, Scotty?
I can tell you that after the race today, I went over to say hello and congratulate Matt Wilson from the winning team today. So ARA, Pro Racing Sunshine Coast, they won the stage with Angus Lyons, and he was in a meeting with one of our biggest benefactors from cycling. And then there's another name on the block that has also come into the cycling world, who is very, very highly ranked in terms of Australia's wealthiest men at the moment.
He's connected to basketball as well, isn't he?
Possibly. And
allegedly,
they were already having conversations about the next generation of riders and how they can help the next talents coming through. So straight after the stage today, young riders have been identified, and there are already movers and shakers that are trying to help them make the progression up into the World Tour.
Do you see similarities with what happened with the British team in cycling around 2012? There's a lot of wealthy benefactors in the background that go, you know what, we want to get this back on track, and that obviously takes investment. It takes money. Do you feel like we're getting a similar momentum behind Aussie cycling, particularly, and you're probably going to see the benefits at the next Olympics, particularly as well?
Hopefully, at the next Olympics. Typically, when it comes to the Olympic program, it's the track cycling that has the most potential for medals. 3-year turnaround. I'm not sure if the investment right now will make a big difference in that. Maybe the one after. But I know that the investment is certainly targeting a lot of these young road riders and the road talent. And if in terms of Team Sky, as it was from the British program from 2012 onwards, look, there was a huge investment from the lottery money in the UK into track cycling. And then lots of gold medals were won in 2008, then 2012. And then that got the interest into the sport in general. And that's when Sky came in. And actually, from my understanding, is Sky, the company, contacted British Cycling and said, we have identified your sport as one that's moving really quickly and we want to get involved. So it wasn't the sport going to a potential commercial partner. It was the other way around. And that was off the success from the velodrome at the Olympic Games in 2008, and 2012. We are kind of in that sort of bubble at the moment in Australia. We have some fantastic benefactors. And as I said, there's potentially another one that's coming on board, and they are looking to develop these young riders. So hopefully it'll be on the track as well. Obviously, that's true to my heart. Luke Plapp talking about wanting to continue to be involved in the track, and the Madison in particular. That was music to my ears. So hopefully we can have that involvement going forward. But these young road riders that are inspired by Cadell Evans and Richie Porte, they can also get some beneficial, funding, perhaps, and direction from these people that are coming involved as well. So it's certainly happening. I don't think it's as big and as clear as what we saw from British Cycling and the money that was invested through their lottery system, then into Sky itself, and now into Ineos. But it's certainly happening here. There's a big movement behind the scenes.
When you talk about the lottery money, I mean, that was also happening in Holland, and I think Belgium, that a lot of the surplus goes into sport. What the bloody hell are we doing in Australia? Is it just going into George Tattersall's pocket? Like, why can't we get the lottery coin?
Yeah, and look, there might be someone, listening that can educate us on this one, but I feel that in those countries, the lottery was more of a government
community thing,
organisation. Yeah, whereas I think here, it actually perhaps is there's a certain amount of private organisations.
We need to change
that's
that.
A different situation. Yeah, it is. Because
maybe we can do Amy Gillett scratchies or something.
yeah, perhaps. But look, they put a lot of money into it, and there's another place. There's a couple of things that have happened in either Japan and also in Korea, and a lot of their Japanese Kirin funding and the Korean Kirin money that has gone into the Kirin racing on the track. There's also been a government push for them to make sure that they put some of that money towards road cycling as well, to build the sport outside of the Kirin racing. We just don't have that sort of income, I guess, in Australia, and that would be fantastic to see that improve.
All right, mate. Well, it's been a great show. Thanks for being part of it, particularly the last couple of days. And when's the Winter Olympics kicking off? How long you got before?
So Tuesday night, I have rehearsals. So I'm doing we're doing the 1500 meter from 2018 as our rehearsals with Steve Bradbury, and then I'm doing the 1000 meters for the women from 2018 on my own, just as a solo rehearsal to see how that goes. So I've got a little bit of research to do for those two events from 5 years ago or 4 years ago. And then next weekend we get into it with the actual racing. So
it sort of feels like the last week of school we got to cram before the exam.
Absolutely, mate. I've got about 3 months of work to put in this next 5 days. So yeah, looking forward to getting away from Adelaide to get back into research for speed skating. But at the same time, look, I love the Winter Olympics. Living in Europe for a long time, I was right into my winter sports, living over there during the winter, biathlon, skiing. I'm a skier anyway. Snowboarding, I'm into all of those things. So I'm really enthusiastically looking forward to getting involved, even though it's from Melbourne. Okay, we're doing it from Docklands. We're not going over to the games itself.
Yeah, but you don't botch this year. You don't botch it. you'll get the gig in 4 years' time and pack your skis, mate. So just don't stuff it up, okay?
I'll try
No
not
pressure.
to. I'll try not to. Yeah. from cycling, Commonwealth Games coming up as well. Hey, Willunga Worlds, I'd love to be involved with that. So I just want to keep getting these gigs. I really enjoy, commentating and putting it out there and just learning the craft of being a commentator. And obviously having worked with Phil Liggett over the years, you just absorb the way he was able to do it. And, hopefully I can have just a little bit of that and move forward and get a career in this.
Well, you know me, I prefer to give you shit, but every now and then I'll say good job and you've done a great job. So onward and upwards, mate. And all the best for the Winter Olympics. Thanks for being on the detour. Thanks, Luke Plapp. Thanks to Iffy. He's probably onto his 4th beer since he's left the podcast. And we'll see you again soon. We may have Caleb Ewan on tomorrow, but it's in the hands of John Chirot. So maybe just follow us on YouTube, turn on notifications. That way, if we do go live, it'll pop up. We're live and you can join in the conversations. Thanks, Scooter. Thanks, guys. See you again soon.
Cheers, Dan.
See you, mate.
This is the winning ride on the Tour de France.